Okay, good afternoon. I know you're all really hungry and want to go and have the sumptuous meal that's been prepared and ready for you all. And I stand in between that. So you had a great scientific content, I guess. This is totally offbeat and something that I was told some people have, at least some of you are looking forward to. So can I have a show of hands? How many of you are doing anesthesia technician work alone? Only anesthesia technicians. Good. How many are doing operating theater technology alone? Okay. And is anyone doing both? I mean, you have to do. Oh, that's a huge number. Okay, mine was catered towards just the anesthesia technologist alone, but I can touch upon briefly the other thing as well. So first, disclosures. That's not there on my slide. I was a stopgap speaker. Dr. Jerry Paul was supposed to deliver this, and it was given to me the last minute. And so I have not done a lot of literature search for this. Basically, it's not literature even, isn't it? So we look at what are the opportunities for anesthesia technicians, technologists, both here and abroad. I'll look upon the following things, like we'll start from here, India, what you can do after finishing a course. Then the traditional, getaway from here has been the Middle East for anesthesia technicians, paramedical staff, nurses in general. So we'll look at that. And the current destination that we all probably want to go to, that's the United Kingdom. And from there, we'll move on to Canada, if possible. And we'll also see Australia, New Zealand. And is there anything else for us? Europe, maybe Africa? So coming to the Indian scenario, we'll see what are the basic courses. I know we are all qualified, but still I would like to highlight that. What are the basic courses available to you all? And then is there a post-graduation that is possible? Then of course the most important thing is jobs and pay packages for sure. So the basic courses, as you all would have done, is either a diploma or a BSc. So can I have a show of hands again? How many of you have done BSc? That's quite a number. How many of you have done diploma? Has anyone done diploma and then done BSc? Diploma and then a BSc? Yeah, there are a couple of hands coming up. That's quite interesting. So is there a difference between the two? Of course, the duration is different. You do it for 2 years and then you have most probably a 6-month internship, whereas the BSc program, there aren't many in our state, but quite a few BSc programs outside Kerala though. And we at Amrita do have a BSc program, and the BSc program, as you all know, would be a 3-year program with a 1-year internship. But the job description is the same wherever you go, India, abroad, at least up to the Middle East, the job description remains the same. But is there a difference in terminology then? Yeah, I mean, nowadays in the Middle East, at least they're trying to differentiate between the two groups of people. The diploma guys are called anesthesiology technicians, and BSc guys are being called anesthesia technologists. Okay, there's a slight differentiation. It's not a very strict, division as such, but at least some institutes and some licensing authorities themselves started using this. So maybe there is a little bit of difference between the two courses. But when it comes to the job description, there's hardly any difference. So is there an actual difference if you just do a diploma? Can you just get away doing the diploma because it's 2 years plus just 6 months, and the fees might be more for the BSc thing. So can you maybe do just the diploma? I mean, as of now, it looks like you could still do the diploma. It's pretty job oriented. You're going to get jobs anywhere here. And when you go to at least, when you go abroad, at least to the Middle East, the licensing, see, you all know you have licensing exams or registrations that have to be done. Now, of late, at least in the Middle East, the licensing exams are slightly different for the two groups. So the licensing exams are told to be little simpler, maybe easier to clear for the diploma holders. So, I mean, that is the current thing. It could change. Whereas when you do the BSc, obviously when you do a bachelor's, the next question is, can you do a master's? Can it go further up? It's probably possible. So that's the basic difference between a diploma course and a BSc course. But then job description wise, not much of a difference as of now. Then the operating theater technology and operating theater and anesthesia technology. Many who have done the diploma of the government stream from recognized hospitals, you have this particular diploma that is called as the DOTAT, operating theater technology as well as anesthesia technology, whereas many other courses are purely anesthesia technology alone. The DOTAT, it gives you the leverage to either you want to go on to anesthesia or you want to go on to operating theater technology. You could go into either, depends on what you want to choose. In our institute, at least, these two are totally different. The operating theater technologists, they don't do the work of the anesthesia technology, and it's vice versa. So we do have a kind of a strict demarcation, but some hospitals, they probably want you all to do both so that they need not employ two different kinds of people. Whereas if you do the anesthesia technology course alone, you will not be able to do the other thing. So that's a slight difference there. So if you do the bachelor's, can you do the master's here? Of course, you could do the master's, but MSc programs in anesthesia technology, there aren't many, definitely not in our state, but there are many institutes outside Kerala, like in Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Maharashtra and all, which do offer the MSc anesthesia technology. They have different names, MSc anesthesia and intensive care technology, something like that. So again, is there a difference in the the job description? I try to look at that, but there is not much of a difference, in the job description. So if you are BSc or MSc, so maybe you could think in terms of, if you want or if you are interested, think in terms of, qualifying further, do a PhD. Now that the MPhil has been taken away from MSc, anyone can think of PhD. But are you going to get too many opportunities for that? I'm not sure at this point of time. So that's about MSc and further. Another thing that could come to your mind is, if you do your MSc, would you get a teaching job, for BSc programs or diploma programs? That is a possibility. I'm not sure if that's happening in anesthesia technology, but I do know that's happening in some other paramedical streams. Once they do the MSc, they do get a lecturer post or something like that, for the diploma courses and for the BSc courses. So that's probably an avenue that could come up. I'm not sure it exists as of now. Some of the other master degrees that people tend to do after anesthesia technology is Master of Hospital Administration. That's being done by many. And then from there, you can branch out into, different kind of jobs, OR managers, flow managers, and things like that. Or you could even become research assistants if you are interested. That's one thing. And with the onset, with the pandemic that we have faced, Master of Public Health is another master's degree which is gaining importance. People are looking forward to doing Master of Public Health, which could have a lot of, avenues opening up in the future. So if you do a bachelor's and you don't want to go for a job, these are some of the masters that you could think about doing after BSc. So job opportunities, the government sector is something traditionally we Indians have always loved, to be in that for its stability, for the job security and all that. So government sector, in between at least it wasn't being favored that much because the private sector seemed to offer higher, especially if you tend to go abroad. So the government sector was a little, lower down, but now again it's gaining in prominence. So you would want to join a government sector job or do a government sector job. You know how to go about. You have to write the Public Service Commission exam, and the problems with that also. But there are a lot of contractual jobs in the government sector that is available, and that's how many people tend to get into the government sector, contractual, and then switch over to a permanent kind of situation. Private sector, most of you are working in the private sector, the advantages, the disadvantages, pay, job security may not be that great. So that's why after a period of gaining a few years of experience, people tend to go abroad. But a third dimension is there, that is, joining eminent institutions. You could think of joining the military, the army, or prominent institutes, which do have a separate sort of interview process, application interview and selection and all. If you are not so keen on going abroad, you could think of those in those lines as well, which could be quite good. So it's not just the government and private sector, you could think of the army and things like that. So that's about what you could probably do within the country. Now thinking of going abroad, so most of you would have looked into it. So I'm not going to detail all this. There is something called as data flow if you're thinking to going to the Middle East. And when we say Middle East, it's not the whole of the Middle East that we are looking at. It's mainly the Gulf Cooperation Council countries, which is 6 in number, among which Oman doesn't take much of anesthesia technicians, so that's not a usual choice. But the most important, the two commonest things would be UAE, there is Dubai, Abu Dhabi and all that. And then you would think of Qatar. Saudi is another big place. It's the biggest country there in the Gulf. So that, especially with the, the growth and the kind of development that's happening there, with the new projects that they're coming up, you would have read about the line, the city which is going to be 170 kilometers and like that. So a lot of development coming up in Saudi, and they are also thinking of hosting the World Cup 6-8 years down the line. So a lot of new opportunities could come up there. UAE has always been the thing, and Qatar is very lucrative because the pay is pretty high. But with the World Cup over, I'm told a lot of the temporary jobs that were given to the healthcare people, that's all over. So they are all being asked to go back. So you'll have to be careful of applying there. Kuwait and Bahrain are small countries. They do, of course, have intake once in a while. But basically, whatever it is, you'll have to do something, what is called as the data flow. You have a lot of agencies over here which do it for you. You will need to qualify with your basic qualifications. Diploma is good enough. And a little bit of experience does help, of course, and all your documents have to be intact. And when I say documents, do you need a transcript? I don't know how many of you know of this terminology. Transcript is your syllabus, your curriculum, what you learn, theory, practical, all that put together. So this is actually not being asked for in the data flow as of now, but I would suggest those who do not have it to get it from your institutes, because it might be needed anytime in the future. It could even be needed for the Gulf, application. So that's one thing. So you need to do all this paperwork, need to get through that, and then comes your licensing. So for the UAE, at least it is the Dubai Health Authority or that is the, for Abu Dhabi, Health Authority of Abu Dhabi, and various exams. And the Prometric. The Prometric is not, Gulf specific. It's basically from the US, but the Prometric exam is what you do it for the Qatar and other places. So whatever it is, you need your experience. And then I would suggest that once you have the experience, you start applying for your job. And only when you get a job should you, resign from your current position. Because at least I know of at least very few instances that maybe where people have thought they're going to get it, they have resigned from here, and then things didn't go the way they had to, and they had to sit for a long period waiting for it. So though your data flow would be clear and your licensing you would have completed or qualified, make sure you get a proper job, before you resign from your current position. So Middle East, that's about it. I think you're all very familiar. Coming to United Kingdom, a lot of things happened in the United Kingdom of late. First is Brexit. I know you're all out of Brexit. That happened just before the pandemic. So a whole lot of Europeans, East Europeans especially, they left UK. So now they are back to seeking, applicants from especially Southeast Asia, especially India. So there's a lot of opportunities coming up for Indians there. And the second thing that happened in the UK was, not just in the UK, all over, was the pandemic. So what happened was a lot of healthcare workers in the UK, they resigned or they gave voluntary retirement. Those in the 50 pluses, they resigned. So again, a lot of jobs coming up. So Brexit and the pandemic together has created a lot of opportunities for us there. So how do you go about to the UK? What are the things that you can do? One is they don't have a post called as anesthesia technologist or technicians there. What they have is what is called as operating department practitioner, or they call it as ODP. So that's one thing you could think about. So this ODP will not be just anesthesia technology. You will have to go to the recovery room. You will have to probably do the work of the anesthesia technology job will be there, and your operating room technology, both together, plus maybe you will be in the recovery area. So it's a wider sort of job, but it's not easy to get. So it's quite lucrative there, so it's not easy. Basically, you will need to register with the Healthcare Professionals Institute, what is called as HCPC, and it's a laborious process, and they're very strict about your qualifications and experience and all that. They will look at it. So if you're purely an anesthesia technologist, to get into that may not be easy, because they are looking at people who can actually maybe even scrub, for the procedure. So then they'll ask you for that experience, which obviously as anesthesia technology you may not have. So it's not easy, though they are saying that it's one avenue that has opened up. You could think about it. It's kind of registration or licensing, you can call it. And they do take a lot of money for that as well. So it's something that you need to explore, but make sure you have all the necessary qualifications, because at any stage they think you don't fit into it, they'll not give you that. So that's one way of looking at it. Probably the better way to go there, if you are an anesthesia technologist, become an ODP. But it's not going to be easy. The other thing that many people do to UK is especially the ones with BSc, is that they do the masters, and again there are various options like public health and all those things, which does give you job opportunities, and as research assistants, epidemiology assistants, biostatics, and so many other things. So Master of Public Health or these sort of master's programs are there, but of course this will be only for the ones with the bachelor's. Only then you would qualify to do the master's and then look for a job, but that would not necessarily be within the operating room. So, move on to Canada. Canada is another area where people are looking into not anesthesia technologists, earlier nurses and some other healthcare professionals like the medical social workers and all. There's a huge demand in the last decade or so. So, many have gone in. Anesthesia technologists have not been able to go. The primary reason being there is no such thing as an anesthesia technician there. The very big hospitals do have, but they are purely technical staff who handle only the big equipment, they take care of it, something like that. So you would not qualify to do that. So the job that you are doing here, if you want to do it there, that would be called as anesthesia assistants. And for that, unfortunately, the primary requirement is respiratory therapy. So the respiratory therapists are the ones who would be able to do this particular thing there. So if you have a respiratory therapy, a BSc respiratory therapy degree, then you go to the board, you get your thing certified, then you undergo a training. Of course, I forgot to mention IELTS. IELTS requires very high score for this particular job in Canada. If you're looking at something else like a radiology technology or something like that, for them the IELTS score is less, but for this probably is the highest they need, like 7 to 8 and all. So the highest score is required for this. So you need to have a good score, you need to have a BSc respiratory therapy degree, then you gain some experience, and then you go for the licensing to the board. So as if you don't have that, you will not be able to. But another thing is what you can do is you can do something called as, again, these anesthesia assistants, they would rotate to all the areas, recovery, they might even scrub, they'll do the anesthesia technician job, all that. So that's why the respiratory therapies are being preferred. As anesthesia technicians, what you can apply for is what is called as a limited licensing. That will be very hard to go through. So then the other group of people there is to do a BSc nursing. So I at least know of one person who after anesthesia technology has gone and tried to do nursing there and then go that pathway, because nursing is the one, nurses are the ones who mainly go into this particular field in Canada, because they also need the BSc, IELTS and all that and experience. Then they can go into critical care nursing and then do an anesthesia assistance thing. So that's a long process, 10 years, something like that, even with the respiratory therapy. So these two are probably not for you. So the only other thing that as anesthesia technician you can do in Canada is there are a lot of postgraduate diplomas available there. You know, that's 1 year course, 2 years and all that. In many, like healthcare administration, office administration, unique clerk, there are many openings like that. That's the only thing that probably you can look at Canada. So to become an anesthesia technician is not going to be easy with your anesthesia technology degree alone. So that's about in Canada. Moving to the down south, Australia, New Zealand. I couldn't get much information from New Zealand, so though I put it New Zealand, whatever I got is from Australia. So Australia, always they have been very different, very hard to get into Australia. And though Australia is just one country, each area has their own rules and regulations. So down south on the east is you have Melbourne, Sydney, Adelaide and all that. So what I understood is to get into those areas almost not possible as anesthesia technicians, because there again it is the anesthesia assistants, that is the job description. So again the nurses try to do that and they are preferred over anesthesia technicians. But if you go to the West Perth and Queensland or some of the rural Australia is where there are opportunities, but our degrees are not recognized there. You will have to go and do a diploma there, which used to be 1 year, but I'm told it's 2 years now. So you'll need to get a student visa for that. You'll need to get into the course. You'll need to get a student visa. That's the only way you can go there. With our degree, you cannot go. So, but it is possible if you get to do the 2-year course. And if you get the PR, you can work as an anesthesia technician. Mostly maybe Perth, that's Western Australia, and Queensland area. But the main down south, Melbourne, Canberra, Sydney, Adelaide area is almost difficult to get anesthesia technology job. So, but if someone who has a UK experience, they are most welcome in Australia. So at least I know a couple of people who worked as anesthesia technicians in UK because they went long back, they did get the job, and then they have moved over to Australia. So if you have a UK experience, it's very easy to get into Australia. So this is about the opportunities that I could gather. And final slide. We live in a global village, so opportunities do abound. So you could think about what you want. You should pick and choose what is best for you. But beware of scrupulous agents who will tell you that they'll get you the job, they'll ask for money. You know what happened to the nurses? They started paying money and there was no end. The sky became the limit, 20 lakhs, 25 lakhs, with a lot of ifs and buts. So beware of such agents. They are coming into other areas as well as anesthesia technology. Be careful of such things. Wherever you work, wherever you go, you should look at building your career if you want to concentrate on that. If you just go for stopgap methods, if you target only money in the initial period, your career may not go anywhere, wherever you go. So you'll have to focus on it. You'll have to think what you want to be. You can just do the simple job. That may be perfect for you. You don't have to go all the way up. So you decide what you want to be and concentrate on it. Whatever you do, remember the saying is it's always green on the other side. So try to do what is best for you. Choose. There are a lot of opportunities for all of you all. Thank you.